Hello, hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Coach Kevin here, and we are going to go ahead and get started. First thing I want to do is go ahead and share my screen with you really quick, point out a couple things. First thing I'd like to point out for you, in case you're brand new with us today, or you're watching this as a recording in the future, I want to point out that we have a Facebook group that coincides with our meetup group, and it has the same name. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. Same name. And we'd ask you to come join us. How do you do that? Just go into your Facebook profile, look where it says search Facebook, go ahead and type in the name of the group. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. And ask to join us. We'll be happy to have you. The other way to find us, you can go directly to facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich. Type that in, it'll pop up. Again, ask to join us. We'll be happy to have you. Why might you want to join us? First of all, because if we have anything special to announce to the group, we typically have it posted and pinned to the top. And what we do is we actually record these Zoom meetings as long as I remember to hit the record button, which I typically do. So we go ahead and record these meetings for a few reasons. Reason could be you were on today and you're like, wow, that was really cool. Something was said, something was shared, maybe the material itself we were going through. Anyhow, there's something you liked that you want to go review again. So you're welcome to do that because we have the recording. Oh, what would be the other reason? Well, maybe you're with us Monday, Tuesday, you got to miss Wednesday, you're here with us Thursday, Friday, and you figure out that, hey, you know what, I want to get caught up with you guys. That's another reason to do it. Okay. So different reasons. Also, it's a place where you can interact with us outside of the 45 minutes or so we have together each afternoon, which, by the way, pointing out that we are together in the afternoon, we also have a morning meeting. You may or may not be aware of it. This one starts at noon. When I say noon my time, that's California. We have another one that is actually at 10 o'clock California time, and it runs the same way, except that the material that we're going through is going to be different. Not different in the sense that we'll never get around to going through the same material in the other group, but different in the fact that we are not on the same schedule between the two different groups as far as material we're going through. That group started on the 5th of November. This group right here actually started yesterday. So you're here with us for the second day in this group, and we are actually going through the material that we started out with when we got that group started. Okay, next thing I would like to share with you. We are going through material. We're going through a book called The Science of Getting Rich. It was written by Wallace Wattles. It was published in 1910. So it's definitely, that was a while ago, okay? And why are we going through this particular book? Well, let me give you a little bit of lineage about the book and how it ended up in my life, because it made a big difference for me, okay? Um, First of all, obviously, Wallace Wattles wrote the book, okay? Well, once upon a time, if you go back long enough, if you've heard of Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant, they're the founders of the Nightingale Conant Corporation. What is the Nightingale Conant Corporation? Well, it was essentially the first producer of self-help material, particularly recordings of seminars and talks and things like that. So when seminars and workshops and trainings were going on, they were the providers of the material back in the day. And what had happened is Lloyd Conant had stumbled upon the book, The Science of Getting Rich, shared it with his partner, Earl Nightingale. And as a result of what they read, they chose to actually create the Nightingale Conant Corporation for personal development. Well, once upon a time, a person came across them after they were already functioning as a company and doing well. This gentleman's name is Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor, you may or may not know him. He's been in the personal development field now. This is his 60th year. This past October 21st was the start of year number 60. And he actually came across Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant about, I'm going to say about 50-ish years, maybe just a little bit longer than that ago. He actually decided to go work together with them, get to know them, And Lloyd shared with him this book, The Science of Getting Rich. Well, Bob got a hold of that book. It changed him for the better. He created multiple programs around the science of getting rich and has taught and trained on those over the years. And another person got that book handed to them. You may have heard of this person more recently. This person is named Rhonda Byrne. Rhonda Byrne is actually the creator of both the movie and the book, The Secret, which is specifically about the law of attraction. So it's because her daughter gave her that book, her life started improving, and she says that she actually used The Science of Getting Rich and or used The Secret to create the movie The Secret. Well, go a little bit further, and actually, I don't know exactly when Rhonda Byrne received it, but there was a facilitator coach that was trained by Bob Proctor named Leslie Householder, and I attended a Science of Getting Rich seminar in 2006. That was my first discovery of the book and the seminar and other materials that Bob Proctor had created around it. Leslie was a coach and facilitator for Bob at the time. And my life changed dramatically. My income went from an average of $5,000–6,000 a month in a very short period of time, under 3 months, to an average of about $50,000 a month. So essentially the months of January, February, March, and some of April, I had that $5,000 to $6,000 a month income, but from May through the rest of the year, it wasn't 50,000 every month. What it was, I had an $88,000 a month in there, but it averaged out once I got a hold of the seminar, once I got reprogrammed subconsciously, and once I devoured these materials and was trained, that my income rose. Well, I've since been coached by Bob Proctor and became a coach for him and his team. And at this point, though, now, just like Leslie Householder, I am independent. Not because there's anything wrong with Bob. Bob is amazing. Okay. We just all have different skills, talents, and abilities sometimes. And I felt intuitively led to go a direction that I'm in right now. And so that's what I'm doing. But I still highly recommend Bob and admire what he's done, and still take a lot of the material that he's used to help train me. He's not the only one. I have other influences, but he's a big one for me. So The Science of Getting Rich, it helped me multiply my income nearly 10 times its monthly average in a relatively short period of time. And I'm sharing it with you now. I'm not sharing the whole seminar and workshop and everything else that I went through, but it is based around this book. I'd like you to go get your own free copy of it. I happen to have it on Kindle. I have it on Audible. However, when we go through material that is important like this, I'd like to see if I can find a place to get it for free, and then point out to you where you can go get it so you can. And I typed in Science of Getting Rich PDF, and what popped up? thesecret.tv, The Science of Getting Rich, The Secret. Well, guess what? That happens to be Rhonda Byrne's website. Perfect. Rhonda Byrne, again, the creator of the book and the movie, The Secret. So when I click on it, here's what pops up. And let's see here. I need to move something. You don't see, but something out of the way here. Now, we started reading yesterday, so we're not on page 1 any longer. We are actually on page 10. I'm going to blow this up so you guys can see it a little bit better. Make it a little bigger for the screen here. Maybe we'll go even one more. Let's see what happens, if that's too big or if that's going to work for you guys to see what you need to see. Yep, that's going to work perfectly. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to continue where we left off yesterday reading the book. I will add commentary where I feel it's appropriate and or helpful. And then you guys, what we're going to do is we typically leave 10–15 minutes towards the end of what we're doing. This is what we've done with the other group, and it's worked out very well for you guys to share what you want to share and ask whatever questions you want to ask. Okay. So I'm saying that because if you're typing into chat hoping to get my attention, just so you know that I'm not trying to be obnoxious, okay? But I'm ignoring it right now on purpose so we can go through the material that we're going through but I want to make it very clear that you will have the opportunity to ask questions. Okay. I'm going to get a sip of water and get rolling with this. There is a science of getting rich. There is a science of getting rich, and it is an exact science, like algebra or arithmetic. There are certain laws which govern the process of acquiring riches, and once these laws are learned and obeyed by any man or woman, he or she will get rich with mathematical certainty. The ownership of money and property comes as a result of doing things in a certain way. Those who do things in this certain way, whether on purpose or accidentally, get rich, while those who do not do things in this certain way, no matter how hard they work or how able they are, remain poor. It is the natural law, or it is a natural law, that like causes always produce like effects. And therefore, any man or woman who learns to do things in this certain way will infallibly get rich. That the above statement is true is shown by the following facts. Getting rich is not a matter of environment. For if it were, all people in certain neighborhoods would become wealthy. The people of one city would all be rich, while those of other towns would all be poor. Or the inhabitants, excuse me, of one state would roll in wealth, while those of an adjoining state would be in poverty. But everywhere we see rich and poor living side by side in the same environment, excuse me, and often engaged in the same vocations. When two men are in the same locality and in the same business, and one gets rich while the other remains poor, it shows that getting rich is not primarily a matter of environment. Some environments may be more favorable than others, but when two men in the same business are in the same neighborhood and one gets rich while the other fails, it indicates that getting rich is the result of doing things in a certain way. And further, the ability to do things in this certain way is not due solely to the possession of talent, for many people who have great talent remain poor. Excuse me, dry throat today. While others who have very little talent get rich. Studying the people who have got rich, we find that they are an average lot in all respects, having no greater talents and abilities than other men. It is evident that they do not get rich because they possess talents and abilities that other men have not, but because they happen to do things in a certain way. Getting rich is not the result of saving or thrift. Many very penurious people are poor, while free spenders often get rich. Nor is getting rich due to doing things which others fail to do. For two men in the same business often do almost exactly the same things, and one gets rich while the other remains poor or becomes bankrupt. From all these things, we must come to the conclusion that getting rich is the result of doing things in a certain way. If getting rich is the result of doing things in a certain way, and if like causes always produce like effects, then any man or woman who can do these things or can do things in that way can become rich. And the whole matter is brought within the domain of exact science. The question arises here whether this certain way may not be so difficult that only a few may follow it. This cannot be true, as we have seen, so far as normal ability is concerned. Talented people get rich, and blockheads get rich. Intellectually brilliant people get rich, very stupid people get rich. Physically strong people get rich, and weak and sickly people get rich. Some degree of ability to think and understand is, of course, essential, but insofar as natural ability is concerned, any man or woman who has enough sense to read and understand these words can certainly get rich. Also, we have seen that it is not a matter of environment. Location counts for something. One would not go into the heart of the Sahara and expect to do successful business. Getting rich involves the necessity of dealing with men and of being where there are people to deal with. And if these people are inclined to deal in the way you want to deal, so much the better. But that's about as far as environment goes. If anybody else in your town can get rich, so can you. And if anybody else in your state can get rich, so can you. Again, it's not a matter of choosing some particular business or profession. People get rich in every business and in every profession, while their next door neighbors in the same vocation remain in poverty. It is true that you will do best in a business which you like and which is congenial to you, and if you have certain talents which are well developed. You will do best in a business which calls for the exercise of those talents. Also, you will do best in a business which is suited to your locality. An ice cream parlor would do better in a warm climate than in Greenland. And a salmon fishery would succeed better in the Northwest than in Florida, where there are no salmon. But aside from these general limitations, getting rich is not dependent upon your engaging in some particular business, but upon you learning to do things in a certain way. If you're now in business and anybody else in your locality is getting rich in the same business while you're not getting rich, it is because you're not doing things in the same way that the other person is doing them. No one is prevented from getting rich by lack of capital. True, as you get capital, the increase becomes more easy and rapid. But one who has capital is already rich and does not need to consider how to become so. No matter how poor you may be, now listen to this is important. No matter how poor you may be, if you begin to do things in the certain way, you will begin to get rich and you'll begin to have capital. The getting of capital is a part of the process of getting rich, and it is a part of the result which invariably follows the doing of things in the certain way. You may be the poorest man on the continent and be deeply in debt. You may have neither friends, influence, nor resources. But if you begin to do things in this way, you must infallibly begin to get rich. For like causes must produce like effects. If you have no capital, you can get capital. If you're in the wrong business, you can get into the right business. If you're in the wrong location, you can go to the right location. And you can do so by beginning in your present business and your present location to do things in the certain way which causes success. I think we're going to do one more today. Is opportunity monopolized? No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. Probably it would be hard for you to get control of any of the great railroad systems. That field is pretty well monopolized. But the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of scope for enterprise. And it will be but a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air will become a great industry, and in all its branches will give employment to hundreds of thousands and perhaps to millions of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation instead of competing with J.J. Hill and others for a chance in the steam railway world? It is quite true that if you're a workman in the employ of the Steel Trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work. But it is also true that if you will commence to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employ of the Steel Trust. Now, remember, this book was written and published in 1910, okay? So get the spirit of it, not strictly what he's saying for the idea here. You can buy a farm from 10 to 40 acres and engage in business as a producer of foodstuffs. There is great opportunity at this time for men who will live upon small tracts of land and cultivate the same intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say that it is impossible for you to get the land, but I'm going to prove to you that it is not impossible and that you can certainly get a farm if you will go to work in a certain way. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions. That's what he's talking about, according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution which has been reached. At present, his time back then, in America, it is setting toward agriculture and the allied industries and professions. Today, opportunity is open before the factory worker in his line. It is open before the businessman who supplies the farmer more than before the one who supplies the factory worker, and before the professional man who waits upon the farmer more than before the one who serves the working class. Okay, there is an abundance of opportunity for the man or woman who will go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it. So the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. The workers are not being kept down by their masters. They're not being ground by the trust and combinations of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. If the workers of America chose to do so, they could follow the example of their brothers in Belgium and other countries and establish great department stores and cooperative industries. They could elect men of their own class to office and pass laws favoring the development of such cooperative industries. And in a few years, they could take peaceable possession of the industrial field. The working class may become the master class whenever they will begin to do things in a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as it is for all others. They must learn, and they will, this they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do. The individual worker, however, is not held down by the ignorance or the mental slothfulness of his class. He can follow the tide of opportunity to riches, and this book will tell him how. No one is kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. A palace as large as the Capitol at Washington might be built for every family on earth from the building material in the United States alone, and under intense cultivation, this country would produce wool, cotton, linen, and silk enough to clothe each person in the world finer than Solomon was arrayed in all his glory, together with food enough to feed them all luxuriously. The visible supply is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance out of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made, and older ones are dissolving, but all are shapes assumed by one thing. There is no limit to the supply of formless stuff or original substance, or what we might refer to as energy or matter in more our terms, okay? Or at least terms you guys might understand. There's no limit to the supply of energy or matter, which are the same thing. Formless stuff or original substance, same thing. The universe is made out of it, but it was not all used in making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between forms the visible universe. Forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with the original substance. With the formless stuff, with the raw material of all things, 10,000 times as much as has been made might still be made. And even then, we should not have exhausted the supply of universal raw material. No man, therefore, is poor because nature is poor, or because there's not enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. When the supply of building material is exhausted, more will be produced. When the soil is exhausted so that foodstuffs and materials for clothing will no longer grow upon it, it will be renewed, or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver has been dug from the earth, If man is still in such stage of social development that he needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless. The formless stuff responds to the needs of man. It will not let him be without any good thing. This is true of man collectively. The race as a whole is always abundantly rich. And if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things which makes the individual man rich. The formless stuff is intelligent. It is the stuff which thinks, or it is stuff which thinks. It is alive and is always impelled toward more life. It is the natural inherent impulse of life to seek to live more. It is the nature of intelligence to enlarge itself, and of consciousness to seek to extend its boundaries and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance, throwing itself into form in order to express itself more fully. The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently toward more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its impelling motive is the increase of life. For this cause, everything which can possibly minister to life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack unless God is to contradict himself and nullify his own works. Let me repeat this. Anybody worried there's not enough? There can be no lack unless God is to contradict himself and nullify his own works. You are not kept poor by lack in the supply of riches. It is a fact, which I shall demonstrate a little farther on, that even the resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman who will act and think in a certain way. And that's what you guys should be excited about, is being taught how that happens. The first principle in the science of getting rich. Well, we will go there tomorrow. Hey, we have a few new people with us. Awesome. Glad to see more people joined us since we got started. All right. So here is what we have the opportunity to do right now. This is your opportunity to share, and this is your opportunity to ask questions. So what is it that you might share? Well, anything in relationship to manifesting more money and wealth in your life that you've done intentionally and successfully. If you would like to share that, that would be awesome. Also, anything that you've done intentionally to manifest anything good in your life, again, that you did on purpose and that you can explain what you did and the process you went through, that you would share with us, that would be awesome. What else would you share? Well, typically anything in relationship to what we've discussed or studied in the past. However, we just got started yesterday with this group, but going forward, you can do that. And anything in relationship to what you studied today. In other words, maybe you got some ahas or you learned something. Questions, what's appropriate? Well, anything in relationship to what we went through today or yesterday, and or anything in relationship to manifesting more money and wealth into your life. So most of you have actually participated in the previous group. I say previous, it's still going, but you've participated before, so you know what to do. And I know we might have a couple new people here and just kind of follow along. So please take time now to share and or to ask whatever questions you want. All you need to do is come off of mute and start speaking, and we'll take you in the order that you do that. This is your time.
Hello, Kevin.
Hey.
This is Paula.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Doing things a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is there a definition?
A definition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there is, and it's coming up in the future, but let
okay.
me but that's okay. Let's make it really simple right now.
Okay, because I'm taking notes.
It'll go into more depth, but it's essentially
okay.
Doing it in obedience to the laws of the universe. So
okay.
here's what you have to have going. First of all, you got to know what the laws are. Kind of hard to live by them if you don't know what they even are. Okay.
Right. That's why I'm starting.
Yep.
2 p.m.
Yep. So, and we're going to go very specifically into that after this book. This will be
Okay.
touched on here, but we'll dive deeper into that. Okay. So by obedience to those laws. Now we have a tool that's been given to us by God that will help
Yes.
us in that, and that is our subconscious mind.
Mhm.
Our subconscious mind can be our best friend or our very worst enemy, depending on what programs are running in our subconscious mind.
Mhm. Mhm.
But when they are, when the program in the subconscious mind is in alignment and in harmony with the laws that govern the universe, particularly how to manifest what it is that you want, when
Mhm.
it's in alignment, everything runs very smoothly. Matter of fact, it seems nearly effortless. When we have a program running in our subconscious mind that's in opposition, or we don't understand the laws and how they work, and therefore we do things not necessarily on purpose to harm ourselves, but we just don't know any better. It's like the little kid, the infant that could walk off a cliff, right? Not knowing that, hey, I can fall down and kill myself,
Exactly.
right? The kid just walks. If they've never seen a cliff before and they've never been shown what happens, they could just walk, not look, walk, boom, there they go off. Are they guilty of any sin?
No.
No, right? Are they bad? No. Did they do something wrong?
Oh yeah.
But is there a consequence to their action regardless of their intention? There is a consequence. They
Well,
fall,
there's a
right?
consequence, but
So we have
they
consequences
didn't
to
know.
our action regardless of our intention. If we do things that defy or go against the laws, we hurt ourselves. When we understand and know how to follow them, then we're in good shape. But we also have to get our subconscious mind in alignment with that too, so that it doesn't have us go walk off a cliff, because we're used to walking off that cliff. If the subconscious mind's just dropping us off the cliff, we got to tell the subconscious mind and get it programmed to quit doing that and go the other way.
I finally figured out the vibrations because I heard, because I listened to the videos of the Bob Proctor's videos as well. And your videos, I mean, I listened to it in my spare time. And he related it to a song, the Beach Boys song about vibrations.
Good vibrations.
The vibrations from the Beach Boys. And so when he related it to that song, it's like, okay, I get that now. Because he says he's not always in a good vibration, but he puts music on that gets him in a good vibration. And I said, yes, I need to do that. Put the music on, listen to the music, and rise above my even though you get on antidepressants, it don't always work, because your circumstances can really pull you down. You have to rise above them with
Yeah.
the good vibrations, regardless of your circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's I finally figured out the vibrations.
Awesome. Very good. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I have a question. It's me, David.
Hey, David.
How you doing?
Good.
Is there a specific place where we can find those 12 laws? Or is it the 12 that I just looked up on Google? Is it more than that?
Actually, it's fewer, thank goodness.
Oh, thank God.
Specifically, at least for manifesting money and wealth in your life. Okay. If you want to jump ahead a little bit, I'm okay with that. Look up, but I would stay focused on, I'm going to bring everybody through a process. It's not the same as me being coaching. Okay. I am a coach. I coach people. That's what I do for a living. That's my profession. That's what I'm really good at. That's where people have quantum leaps. I had my quantum leap because I had a coach. Her name was Leslie Householder, and I had a coach named Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor had a coach named Ray Stanfield. Jack Canfield had a coach. Everybody I know of that does extremely well at some point needs a coach, not to teach them necessarily the principles, but to see their blind spots and keep them on track. Because we turn into the mechanics that have broken cars. It's like, I know this. Yeah, well, your car still won't run. It doesn't matter. that you know. It doesn't even matter that you can talk to other people and give advice and help them. It's not happening for you. So I just want to understand it's different, but there's a process that I'm going through with you guys and we'll be going through that will pretty much over a period of about 3.5, 4 months will give you all the information and foundation you could possibly need to manifest what you want. This specific book itself, if you only did what it said, but you have to do what it says, and your subconscious has to be in alignment with it or it's going to sabotage you. But if you were to take this particular book and your goal is to become wealthy and have more money and have a different lifestyle, this book literally could be just what you need and nothing else possibly, unless God in the universe guides and directs you to something. But like mathematics, 1 + 1 is 2. 3 × 7 is 21. There's not like a new version, right? So, but the book Hidden Treasures by Leslie Householder, you could get you could go to Amazon, go buy a copy. But she has made it available for free on one of her websites. If you type in Leslie Householder, Hidden Treasures, ebook or PDF or whatever, you'll find it. And we're going to dive deep into that one. It's a newer book versus this one being 1910. Most of the stuff I'll go through will be older versus some of the newer things that are out there, partly because if I haven't reviewed it, used it myself, and gotten results from it, I don't typically want to share something until I've done that. And I've gotten pretty good results with what I've got. The reason I share Leslie's is because I actually have gone through it over and over and over again. And I think she explains it better than some of the other people out there explain it. And I've been told that by people who've read that book. They're like, oh, it's put so easy to understand. So hopefully that helps you, David.
All right, great. Yeah, I'm checking it out now. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other comments or questions? Well, you got me. It's a smaller
Hi, Kevin.
in the morning. Yes.
This is Betsy.
Hey, Betsy.
How you doing?
Good.
I just wanted to ask you, like, if you read a certain book every day,
Mhm.
will your subconscious, I guess,
Pick up
get
on
into the vibration faster?
Yes. Yes, it would. It would. Are you religious at all?
Not real religious.
Not really?
no.
Okay. Well, let me use it. You'll still be able to you'll still get it from the idea, right? That I'll share. It's still going to make sense. You've seen, even if it's in a movie, okay, a pastor or a preacher at a church, right?
Mhm.
Do you think the pastor or preacher of a particular church, and let's say it's biblical based, right? Maybe it's a Christian church. It doesn't matter. I'm just giving you an example. So this pastor wants to preach and teach what is, hopefully what is taught in the scripture, what Jesus is wanting people to learn. Do you think that guy is going to be very good as a preacher if he's read the Bible once?
Probably not.
No, right? Coming up with the material to do his talks and do whatever it is that he's going to do from the pulpit, he's going to struggle. He's just going to blah, 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 whatever it is he wants. And that'll be his thoughts, maybe, and not necessarily the thoughts of what are in those scriptures. But what I found, and it almost doesn't seem to matter which religion it is, usually the person who is going to be doing the preaching usually is also the person that probably has studied the scriptures the most.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they always understand it the best. Okay, we can all debate that, but they've probably read it the most, and they were told when they were younger, and even older people, have read the Bible. Some have never read it, doesn't matter. But and there's Christians out there that have not read it, not in its entirety. But there are people out there that they read at least some of it every day, and they have for nearly their entire lives. Well, the people who've read some of it every day for nearly their entire life probably have a better understanding and a stronger faith of what's being said than somebody who's just read and glossed over it one time. So
Right.
to take something like The Science of Getting Rich and go over and over and over and over again with it, yes, it will help your subconscious accept it. It will help it become more subconscious for you. Does that mean you don't ever read any other books? No, but he is actually going to tell us later on as we read this that you don't have a need to read other books about becoming rich. You could just go do what this book says, study this book and learn it and have it become part of who you are, and you will get rich. As a matter of fact, what he will recommend is that you shouldn't read things that have opposing ideas, because then at a subconscious level, you've just got turmoil. Therefore, you're not going to manifest what you want. So you want to be careful from an environment standpoint. If you're trying to do better, let's just talk strictly financial for now, and you hang out in the slums, what do you think that's going to do for you?
No, not very well.
Right? You're gonna have this constant battle where it's like, okay, I'm gonna put something good in, and then I'm gonna go back to the slum today. Now, granted, that's sometimes why it's difficult for people to get out of that.
Right.
So you
Right.
have to, the people that do pull out of that usually go into when they are kind of stuck where they're stuck, they go into their own mind and into their own visualization and their own imagination, and imagine that their life is different than what it shows out on the outside. And they'll
Yeah.
do that persistently long enough to where their subconscious mind finally goes, okay, fine, I'm going to agree with that then, and I'm going to help you out. But for the
Right.
most part, we don't want to purposely put ourselves in a position where we're trying to manifest what we want and go read things and watch things and do things that are in opposition. We don't need people telling us that we're stupid, that we shouldn't want to be rich, that we're evil. You go do that to yourself, knowing that that's what's going to happen. Well, then you get to deal with the results of that too, right? That is one of those times where we walk off the edge of a cliff, knowing what happens when we walk off the edge of a cliff, and we walk off the edge of the cliff anyway. Well, that's dumb. The little kid that walks off the edge of the cliff doesn't know any better. That wasn't smart either, but the kid didn't even know it was dumb to do. We go walk off the edge of the cliffs all the time in our life, knowing that, hey, if I take that step, I'm going to fall and it's going to hurt. And we do it anyway.
Yeah. So like if I was going to both of your classes, to like today, would that be enough? Would that help manifest it faster? I just thought of that.
Well,
They're going to be
it's not,
considered two different.
okay, so consuming information versus applying information.
Uh-huh.
Let me put it this way. What are some of the foods that you like to eat, Betsy? Anything. It doesn't.
The good stuff or the bad stuff?
Yes, any of it. Let's not even judge.
I love ice cream. I love ice cream.
Okay. What are your favorite flavors? Some of your favorite flavors?
Like Rocky Road.
Okay. So I can bring you home a gallon, half gallon, whatever. I can bring you home some Rocky Road, Betsy. Right?
Right.
And it's in the freezer, except you're not allowed to open it.
Yeah.
You're not going to but you can stare at the container all you want. You're even allowed to pick it up and feel the coldness of it. But you're not allowed to open it. It's locked up in such a way where it's impossible to open it. You're not allowed to. You can't open it. All you're allowed to do every day is go to the freezer, and you could read the description. You could look at the container. You could read the ingredients. You can drink. You can do all the things you want to do except eat it. What benefit?
Sure.
What benefit are you going to get from that gallon of ice cream?
Well, it'd probably be healthier a little bit.
No, that again, we're not talking that. Okay.
Right, okay.
Does that ice cream serve any real purpose if you don't get to eat the ice cream?
No,
No. And that's what a lot of people do, because our subconscious tricks us into this, because we were programmed by the outside world that what we do is we go to school. And what school has trained us to do is not to become what we learn necessarily, but to go through a process of taking information and regurgitating it onto a piece of paper, either through the written word or filling out bubble answers. So what we do is we have been trained at a surface, we've been trained to understand things, but not to live them or become them. It's interesting how we usually don't become much of anything outside. As we're going through school, unless we're taking extracurricular activities for music, right, we don't really master a whole lot, or
Right.
sport, because we can play the sport over and over and actually become good at it. But as we go through school, we keep learning and taking tests and learning and taking tests. And you know what we're really good at now?
Just
Following the school system.
right.
But then even when the school system's done, they have to take us out of it to actually teach us how to do anything. Because a
True.
doctor can't just read a book. An engineer can't just read books and listen to lectures,
True.
because nothing will ever happen. They don't actually apply what they're learning. But we feel good when we go learn something new. It gives us this mental, stimulation. And because we feel we understand it a little bit, we're like, I know this because I've read it, but I can regurgitate it back to you. Yeah, you can. The words, you know it intellectually, but you don't know it at a subconscious level. When you know it at a subconscious level, this is how it works. What's 3 times 7, Betsy?
21,
6 times 4.
24,
8 times 9.
72.
367 times 421. You
I
can
have
do
to
it.
write
I
it
know you can do it, but you can't do it just like you were, right?
right,
Because it never became subconscious.
right.
It became subconscious because we did it so many times that we can't even forget when we're 100 years old. We still can't forget it, right? Once we learn to tie our
Right.
shoes, same thing. Once we learn to drive cars and do stuff like that, that becomes subconscious. But the reason it became real for us is we did it over and over and over again, and we can immediately recall it. But a brand new 15-year-old, 15 and a half-year-old, 16-year-old getting their driver's permit, they don't drive the car the same way as somebody who's been driving for the last 20 years. Same car,
True.
same process. For the 20-year driver, it's more of a subconscious level. We can go driving down the road, get somewhere, and not even know how we got there.
True.
But we did it. That's what we have to do with this material. That's why Bob does what he does. And that's why he's repetitive about doing a lot of it, because he recognizes that not only do you learn what it was, but when you do it that way, you actually get to learn who the author was too. It's not just the written pages. You get to start to think the way the author is thinking that wrote the material in the first place. You actually end up kind of with a connection to them at a subconscious level also. And you get to benefit from their wisdom more than just reading words off a page.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments?
Kevin, is visualization and writing things down a form of applying it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Yep. Anybody else? Okie dokie. Well, I will be here again with you guys tomorrow. I'm glad that you spent some time with us today, and look forward to helping you out moving forward. You guys have an amazing, wonderful, awesome day. And Paula, thanks for the heart. Love you guys. You have an amazing day. Thank you so much.